Okay, so this is what I'm starting with. I built a basic hearth. So it's a piece of slate, it's a slate slab sitting raised up on a bed of stone. And then there's cob infill. Basically, there's a front line of stone, and then there's cob infill behind that. And then on top of that whole thing, this slate slab is sitting. And then on top of that, I had the Woodburner professionally installed. So as you can see, it's a very small Woodburner. The dimensions on it are probably about 20 inches tall and maybe 14 inches wide and about 12 inches deep or something like that. So maybe about a 1.5 cubic feet total for that little Woodburner. And then, yeah, it just has a straight flue, single-walled, uninsulated, single-walled flue pipe coming straight out of the top. That's a 5-inch pipe. And then it goes into basically a 90-degree elbow and then exits through the wall there. And it's all, this entire section of the pipe all the way up into the wall, it's all uninsulated single-wall pipe. And then there's a clean out there on the pipe. So as you can see, I've already started the work on this, so I'll share with you what I've already done. So my goal here is to pack as much thermal mass in the form of stone, clay, sand, gravel, etc. Pack it around this Woodburner as closely as possible, but leaving enough room for the internal Woodburner core to expand slightly as it gets hot. So in other words, the masonry that I'm going to be packing around this Woodburner can't be in direct contact with the metal of the stove, because if I did that and put the masonry in direct contact with the steel siding of the stove, then as the stove heats up and expands, it would push the masonry away from it and start cracking things in the surrounding thermal mass. So we don't want that. Or if the thermal mass was strong enough to resist somehow the expansion of the stove, then the metal of the stove itself could have problems, potential stress cracking or whatever. So I just don't want the masonry or the thermal mass to be in direct contact with the metal of the stove itself. So what I've started doing is basically surrounding the Woodburner with what I had on hand for nice straight blocks. These are cement or concrete blocks, but if you had bricks, you could use bricks, red bricks or whatever kind of bricks you have available. Or if you have really clean dressed flat-faced stones, you could potentially make that work as well. So I have the right side here. I have 2 cement blocks, actually 1 full cement block, that's this, and then one that I cut in half sitting behind it. Same thing on the left side. That's 1 full cement block and then another half behind it. And then behind the stove, I have another, this slightly different dimensions on this concrete block. It's slightly thinner. And so that's sitting directly behind the stove into the corner that this Woodburner is installed into. So that was the first start. I wanted to surround the 3 sides, the left, right, and the back, with a straight-faced chunk of heavy masonry that I could position very carefully to have an expansion gap between the stove and that piece of masonry that I've put in on all sides of it. So if you can see, you can just see there's a tiny little air gap there that separates the stove from the cement block, and you can see the same there. And then on the back, you can't tell as much because there's no light coming from beneath it, but there is a slight gap between the stove and that concrete block behind it. So I tried to keep the gaps to about 2 millimeters. I did some basic research online about the sort of expansion I could expect in a cast iron stove of this size at the kind of temperatures I'm going to get to with burning hardwood, and it seemed like 2 millimeters on each side would give me a comfortable margin for error, so that's what I'm shooting for. So this is my first step, just putting concrete blocks on 3 sides. I'll share with you the next step.